What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
What is going on, OTB Nation? Welcome into episode number 375 of the award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA ranked, number 11 Philadelphia ranked, and a podcast hosted by a Tom Borelli Award nominee, Outside the Box Podcast, the official lacrosse podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. It's KB coming at you from Underground Studios and joining me as he does each and every week, just this week with a unique POV. If you're watching on YouTube, which you should be, it's Coach Deej.
What up? Coach Deej is on a 2-week hiatus. Actually, yesterday we had our playoff game. We did unfortunately lose, so we were out of the state playoffs. But one of the most exciting times I've had. We had inclement weather coming in. Actually, we had 3 tornadoes touch down last night. So the game was set at 6. We needed to be, and it was an hour and a half away from home. We needed to be back home by 10 p.m. We got that game done in an hour and a half. Like, last whistle was 7:30. We were back in the vans by 8. We stopped and got food and made it back home by 10. And I mean, all coaches and players, parents were all back in their homes by 10 p.m. But the fans at this game, the parents at this game were ridiculous. They were chirping me. Coach your kids. Coach them up. They're a bunch of girls. And I was like, I'll show you a girl.
Right.
And then it keeps going, da-da-da-da. And it's mostly moms, so I'm ignoring them. Then there's this one guy who's like my age. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said something to me. I turned, and I pointed my thumb toward outside of the stadium, and I said, parking lot? And then the guy shut up. And all the moms were like, oh, my God, what'd you just say? What a great example for your boys. And I was like, yeah, thanks. And then at the end, I blew him a bunch of kisses, and I said, to all my fans, thank you. See you again sometime soon. And I walked away. It just was like it was just so funny. And then during the game, I can admit I was coaching. I was in the box, the substitution box. I was in it. Kid comes over. He's like, hey, you're in the box. Step back. I was like, my bad. The proper term is excuse me. And he goes, yeah, but you're in the box. I said, yeah, and the proper term is excuse me. He's like, you're a grown man talking to a kid. And I was like, yeah, the proper term is excuse me. It's clear that parents don't teach manners up here. And then my assistant coach, yeah, he just looks stupid. He's like, oh, I look stupid, huh? We're like, yeah, dude, you're talking shit while you're winning against a team that has 13 players. And you can't even say excuse me. You literally look like shit. So like, it was just fun, like kind of just going back and forth. But yeah, 2-week hiatus before spring ball or summer ball starts. So I'm basking in the glory of having some time off.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just like looking at schedules and everything, and I was like, holy shnikes. Like, the way that this podcast has evolved from covering just NLL initially because the Wings are back to now Wings are back and PLL started, and now basically we go from November to September year round covering this sport, NLL, PLL, college, and there's like 1 month of a break. I truly, when we started doing this pod back in 2018, 2019, never thought it would like be this year round so quickly, because yes, it's been, since 2018, 2019, but like for a sport that is not your major 4, that is a quick like boom to being as close to year-round coverage as possible. And I was looking at my calendar. when I was at the Truist Championship. I was like, holy shit, like 2.5 weeks I'm going to be in Albany. And then the travel just goes and goes and goes, baby. But we're back, and we've got a lot to dive into. The NLL Finals are set. We will have a breakdown of the matchup that gets going tonight as you guys are listening and watching to this. This will be up hopefully before game one faces off. We will also do a little just aftermath. You know, the vision is a lot more clear following the PLL draft. I've had some sleep since being at the PLL draft to kind of like dissect a lot of the things that happen and not just be so reactionary in real time. We've had a lot of rubble kind of settle with guys going on the holdout list, guys retiring, things of that nature as well that make draft picks. And not that they didn't make sense at the time, but they almost make even more sense now than they did immediately on draft night when everyone is so reactionary. So we'll dive into some of those as well. We will also get into the college game, as we always do at the end of the episode for the real sickos out there. So make sure, first and foremost, you guys are following us on the socials at OTB Lax Pod across the board. We're on every social platform. Follow us on the socials. You can follow Deej on Twitter at SCS_next great. Follow me, KBIZZL311. Follow Hoots at Hoot Sports Media. Subscribe to the pod, subscribe to the pod, subscribe to the pod. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts in audio form. Leave us a 5-star review. It goes a long way for not only helping this show continue to grow, which we just got access to the back end numbers for the first time in, I don't know, we made this feed in 2019, 2020. So for the first time in like 5-6 years, we got our Apple Podcast numbers directly, and our following is about double the size we thought it was. So cheers to all of you who subscribe on Apple Podcasts. And a big thing too, if you're an Apple Podcast user, there's now an Underground Sports Philadelphia podcast channel on the app. So if you go into the Apple Podcast app, you can click on the channels tab and you can subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia channel. That way you get alerts for whenever a new episode of any of our shows on the network come out, and you can dive into all of our shows, whether it be Underground Sports Philadelphia, OTB, Get in the Hole, Top Bins, Underground Circuit, Streamer Season. Plus our Light the Flame podcast is under that umbrella, as well as Guzman's Gridiron, which is our Vineland High School football podcast hosted by yours truly and head coach of Vineland High School football, Jose Guzman, when that is in season. So all of our podcasts, plus if any new podcasts show up, they will be added to the channel, and you'll see when new podcasts are out. Plus it gives you top shows, top episodes, all that good stuff. So if you're new, you can kind of get immersed into the underground universe. So definitely check out the channels tab. I'm very excited that we finally have access to that big time. And if you want to watch the show, subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. That is where you get full video episodes of this show every single week, full video episodes of every show on our network, clips, shorts, live streams, original video content. It's all on our YouTube channel. We're at 1,058 subscribers, which means we're 42 away from our next 100 subscriber milestone. So keep subscribing, leave a like on the video, drop a comment in the comment section, and click that bell icon so you know whenever new videos go live. And we're still 47 subscribers away on the OTB YouTube channel. I know the college season is slowly coming to a close, but that means, hey, the gauntlet may still be on the table for next season, which means if you subscribe to the OTB YouTube channel, the OTB College Show will start at the beginning of the 2025-2026 season on this show with Deej and Hoots. So keep subscribing if you want the college show. It's that simple. Just go subscribe. The OTB channel is linked in the description. It's youtube.com/@OTBLaxPod. And this show is proudly presented by our friends at Shootout For Soldiers. Guys, their season gets underway this weekend. 2 locations on May 17th. Big-time stuff coming up in 2025. They're down in Atlanta and in Annapolis, Maryland, May 17th. Plus, May 24th, they'll be in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And on May 31st, they will be in San Diego, California. Plus, they have events throughout the month of July, August. They have an event in September in Baltimore, and they're going to Kansas City in October. it is truly one of the coolest experiences that you can take in if you're a lacrosse fan, because it's bridging lacrosse with your community to help out our nation's veterans. And in a time like we're living in right now, they absolutely need all the help they can get from any avenue possible. And what better way to do it than with the medicine game of lacrosse? Visit shootoutforsoldiers.com/events. It's linked in the description. Check out all of their event schedules, how to volunteer, how to get involved, register, request more information, become a sponsor, or more. It's shootoutforsoldiers.com/events, and it's linked in the description, and find out how to get involved with one of the coolest parts of the sport of lacrosse that may not necessarily be the pro game, but it is such an institution in the lacrosse universe that if you get involved with Shootout for Soldiers, you're not going to regret it. So once again, shootoutforsoldiers.com/events. And we thank Shootout for Soldiers for being a proud presenting partner of the Outside the Box podcast. Deej, here we are. Another NLL Finals is on the horizon. And as we joked last week, ever since this show has started, the Buffalo Bandits are involved in every single NLL Finals we have ever covered. But we now know their opponent. And for the first time in show history, granted, they were in 3 out of 4. They were champions of 3 out of 4 right before this show started. But for the first time in show history, the Saskatchewan Rush are headed to the NLL Finals, the first time since the 2018 season. The 2017-2018 season was the last time they were in the NLL Finals. And the semifinals have wrapped up. And Saskatchewan get the job done. And we said it last week that as soon as we saw they won game 1 in Halifax, it was going to be blouses, because then they had 2 opportunities to get it done at home. And I think Austin Shanks had one of the greatest quotes post-game I've ever seen. I believe Ashley Docking asked him, how'd you know that you were going to get it done tonight? And he said, I only packed 1 suit.
Nice. That's confidence.
Packing 1 suit and you're the home team is hilarious optics too. Obviously, Austin, just trying to work up the theatrics there, but absolutely incredible quote. But Saskatchewan get it done. They win 10-9 in overtime, and they force overtime with literal seconds left in regulation. I mean, just an incredible game overall to punch your ticket to the NLL Finals. Matt Hosick with 3.8 seconds left in the fourth ties it at 9. His wife quote tweets it, the official NLL highlight of it, and says, "My husband is amazing." We love that big wife energy. Just an insane goal. Watching, I have not been able to stop watching that replay, because the hezzy that Hosick puts, where he kind of pump fakes the first shot and then puts it away, is just nasty. And the fact that they were able to smoothly get the ball down the floor with about 9 seconds left. When you're in a pressure situation like that, you never know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to get the pass off cleanly, if you're going to be able to, get the ball in your stick cleanly on that pass, because there is so much tension and nerves added. You're in front of your home crowd and everything. You want to put on a show for them. Incredible sequence by the Saskatchewan Rush to send it to overtime, and then they punched their ticket to the NLL Finals for the first time since 2017-2018. And I mean, as the season progressed, we definitely started to notice that this Saskatchewan team was built different than years past of Saskatchewan teams that we have covered. But they're headed to the finals. It's going to be an incredible NLL Finals, in my opinion, between 2 powerhouses of this season with Buffalo and Saskatchewan. And I mean, what better way than to have the 2 teams that finished with the best records in the NLL this year face off for a championship?
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows that there was parity in the league. Like, when we look around at who beat who throughout the regular season, there was parity in the league. There were some teams that were able to scratch their way into the playoffs. I think the regular season set the tone for the playoffs. When you look at the regular season, Saskatchewan and Buffalo were literally a step ahead of everyone pretty much all year. They were in this space where they were playing better lacrosse than everyone else, and then you started to have your San Diegos, your Halifaxes, Calgarys, and others that stepped in were making really good plays. Vancouver, Georgia, also playing very good lacrosse. They all had very good chances of winning games in the playoffs. All of them were able to make these games tough, close games. No one was getting blown out. And you can see just how tight knit the talent is in the NLL and how close every single game can be, and how it is a matter of inches between one team being 8-8 and another team being 10-8. It's inches between a team getting a game 3 in a semifinal and one team going to the NLL finals. Everything is so close in this league, and the playoffs so far have done an amazing job of showing that. I think we're going to get a blockbuster in NLL finals because of that. I do think these are the two teams who deserved being in the NLL finals most. They showed that the regular season matters. They showed that they set the tone for themselves in the regular season by playing really good lacrosse and then trying to continue that and not putting themselves in a position where they had to go on the road in critical games because they had that home field advantage. Lacrosse is still making me feel like the regular season matters. And that's one thing that we could really pull out of the NLL this year is two teams that did very well in the regular season, kept that momentum going into the playoffs. And it proves that just really focusing on the regular season in the NLL will bode success for you in the future.
And I think that was part of the unified standings coming into play in a league like this too, like making the regular season matter. And I think we saw the regular season matter more than ever this year when you looked at the final standings, when literally every team down the standings, down the table, they were in pairs of 2 of the same exact record, going all the way down outside of 14th and 15th place, were the only 2 that didn't have a pairing together that finished with the same record. So that brings in every aspect of tiebreakers. That brings in score differential, that brings in head to head. Like when you have that many teams that are so close in proximity to each other in terms of win-loss, it creates parity and it makes your schedule that much more important. And you got to beat the teams that are in front of you when they're in front of you. And you got to stave off the teams that are behind you when they're behind you. And I think that's what's been the cool part about taking in this NLL season, has been the fact that there were, like, for a majority, I'd say 85% of the season, there was a logjam between 3rd and 13th place for most of the year. Teams falling off early, and then Rochester rises like a phoenix from the ashes to clinch that 5th seed. The Wings were at the top of the table, and then for a 2-month stretch, they fall apart. And then towards the end of the season, there's a 1.8% chance that they can make the playoffs still. You have Buffalo and Saskatchewan finish with the same record, but because Buffalo beat them head to head, that comes into play as a tiebreaker, and that gives Buffalo the number 1 overall seed. So you have so many different aspects of just parity and tiebreakers and, what have you. And I think it made this season very electric. And, it showcased itself in the semifinals. Both teams that advance sweep their opponent 2-0. And, I think Saskatchewan almost in a more impressive way, going on the road first, even as the higher seed, to secure that is pretty impressive. But these two teams, blow for blow, they're very similar. I know the Bandits have, the Avengers of Josh Byrne and Dane Smith and Chase Frazier and Ian McKay and Connor Farrell and Matt Vince and the rest of those boys who have won back-to-back championships, have been to 5 straight now once this game gets underway, NLL Finals. But in a lot of aspects, the Rush are a direct mirror of them. They're almost the Thunderbolts to the Avengers, to pull another Marvel reference out there for you. You have the Mike Messenger, you have the Boudreau, you have Frank Chiliano, Zach Mann. You have so many guys on this Saskatchewan, Jake Naso. Like, they are almost a weird reflection of the Buffalo Bandits, and I think it's going to make for an incredible NLL Finals. And genuinely, I'm calling my shot here early. I'd be stunned if this game, this series, doesn't go the distance and go all 3 games.
It should, but I wouldn't be surprised
Crazier things have happened.
if either one of these teams is able to steal one on the road and just end this thing. Because, like, that's the thing with game 1 being in Buffalo. If Saskatchewan somehow pulls off game 1 in Buffalo, I don't know that Buffalo will have the gumption and the energy to go into Saskatoon and come out with a win when Saskatchewan knows, hey, we have them on the ropes at home, and if we go back to Buffalo, things are going to be crazy. But then again, if Buffalo wins game 1, Saskatchewan's going to play tight. They're going to be a little bit tougher on their sticks and everything, because for them, it is no error lacrosse in a 1-0 game in game 2. If they're 1-0 in the series, down 1-0 in game 2, they don't have space for errors. They have to go, they have to win, which could in turn create a sense of urgency and anxiety, which creates more turnovers and kind of puts them in a position where they allow Buffalo to steal that game from them at home. So these are all things that I think people don't really put into mind when thinking about these things. But realistically, this series should go 3 games.
Did you like that? I pulled the Dochi out of my bag.
I peeped.
You said anxiety, and my tick happened there. I was like, oh, here we go. TikTok trend. Here we go. But yeah, we will preview the matchup in a moment. And part of the semifinals wrapping up, we got our award winners in the National Lacrosse League, but also before that with Halifax. Deej, what do you make of Halifax? I mean, we've talked about this now probably 2-3 straight years now since you've been on the pod, and Halifax failing to get over the hump. You know, they finally win their first playoff game, but then in turn get swept in the semifinals. Where do they go? It feels like they're all at the same time at a crossroads, but not at a crossroads all at the same time, because they've drafted well and have some very good young talent, still have some very elite level guys in their prime. But at what point does running it back, and they didn't necessarily run it back from last year because obviously Ryan Benesh went to San Diego, Shanks went to Saskatchewan and everything, so they did lose some guys. But at what point does Halifax and their front office kind of look in the mirror and say, what do we have to do to, for lack of a better term, shake things up and get over the hump? Because we are an institution type of a franchise. Everyone looks at how you think Halifax Thunderbirds, you think of an elite level team in the National Lacrosse League. They are a team that can go out and win any game that's in front of them. But then when the playoffs come around, they continue to squander opportunities. And not that they squandered it this year. I think Saskatchewan was just a better team. But at what point do they recognize, what do we have to do to push forward and like break through and get to an NLL Finals?
Okay. This is gonna sound weird. But I don't really think that they've done anything wrong.
I agree.
I don't think they need to really fix anything. I think it comes down to really with them, it's like the age-old thing of lacrosse is like they just don't have enough time together. They're not practicing enough together. Like the things that keeps Halifax from winning games are small things. A couple loose balls that they lose out on in a tight pinch in a game. A couple not so well executed man ups or power plays that they end up not scoring on. Their penalty kill not being as tight and as good as I feel it should be. But I think all of those things are like things you fix in practice. But when these guys are getting maybe a day of practice, 2 at most, you don't have a lot of time to fix those things. You don't have a lot of time to, and then the travel bug and the working outside of lacrosse, all of those things also affect them. They're not able to put their full into lacrosse. They have other stressors going on. They have other things to worry about that affects your play. When you're traveling in, the day before a game and then you play and then you travel back home, that affects the way you play. These are all things that I think are in a factor with Halifax. And then also you have their weird scenario with timing. They're an hour ahead of everyone, which puts them also in a really weird space when they travel because they're playing at different times. It affects their body differently. All of these things are factors, and I think they just have to find a way to win games. Like, they're on the outside looking in. They're not a player away. They're a couple plays away. When you look at their scores, they're not getting blown out in games. They're losing games by 3 goals or less, especially in the playoffs. They're a couple plays away. They just have to find out how to make their game cleaner so that they're able to execute in those moments that they really need to push themselves over that hump of at least getting to a conference semi or, you know, a semifinal, which they did this year, but, you know, you didn't win a game. I think if they're able to get to the NLL Finals, I think that hump is over. Even if they don't win, I think just seeing themselves get past that semifinal round will do a lot for them.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that they're not like a player away, but I do think they need to get one more like B plus A minus player in a draft or a trade to pair with Clark Peterson for the like Clark. I think this year in particular took another step forward, and like we've known how good Clark has been for a while now, but I think this year really showcased to like the overarching landscape of the National Lacrosse League how fucking good of a player he is. I think if they can get one more guy, and whether that becomes Cole Kirst and Cole takes another step forward in the box game, or you know, Mike Robinson continues to develop, or they go and find somebody to pair with him. And I'm not saying they're done, but you know, Cody Jamieson, he's not getting any younger. Randy Stotts is not getting any younger. They're still playing at elite levels, but at what point, you know, do you have to be prepared for those guys to eventually hang it up? And I think part of that transition will be Clark Peterson has the potential to be a superstar. And I think if you can get one more guy on that offense that is a little bit younger to pair with Clark and kind of do a lot of things with him, and whether that's somebody that's on the roster or not, I think they are one like younger piece away. And what, like I said, whether that's Cole or one of the younger guys developing and taking that next step, or they find somebody in the draft, get somebody via trade, free agency, whatever it may be. I think it's one guy offensively that I think will benefit them. And I want to see some of these guys on this team because I think they've drafted well. You know, Mike Robinson, Jason Knox is huge. He's 6'4", shoots lefty, 200 pounds. You know, Christian Watts is on this team. You know, Dawson Theed, could he take another step forward, you know, next year, another year under this Thunderbirds coaching regime? You know, you still have Thomas Hogarth, who I think is still very much in his prime. You have Bo Hunter, who I think will really take another step forward next year. I think it's just not preparing per se for your franchise cornerstones getting older, but it's like, okay, we want to see a lot of these younger guys do what Clark Peterson did like last year and this year and really evolve their game to the next level. And I think that will be a huge benefit for Halifax moving forward on the offensive side of things, because we always say they're a Jekyll and Hyde team. 1 week they're scoring 16 goals, the next week they're scoring 8, and it's like you're asking what the hell happened. But I think they're a team that is just perennially a playoff contender, and they're just looking to get over that hump and be in an NLL Finals for the first time. And I think they checked the box this year. Not that you want to categorize your seasons as checking a box, but you finally won a playoff game as the Halifax Thunderbirds. That's an accomplishment. Now you got to take that next step, win a game in the semifinals, win a semifinal series, and get to your first NLL Finals as a franchise. But speaking of Saskatchewan, they had some guys named end of year awards winners, and we have our end of season awards. But before we get into those, our wrap up here brought to you by our friends over at Buff. Guys, you know we love Buff here at Underground Sports Philadelphia at OTB. And as the big Survivor fans we are, you already know they got the Survivor Season 48 Buff collection. Plus, they've got so many different options on their website that you can check out to be prepared for any type of weather. And guess what? Deej? 40% off on select styles for their Memorial Day sale going on right now. It ends May 28th. So check out everything Buff has to offer, whether you're getting ready for cycling, running, hiking, fishing, being outdoors, just everyday wear. Plus, those Survivor Season 48 buffs are elite. Check out Buff's website, use our link in the description, and shop their Memorial Day sale now through May 28th. Don't miss out. 40% off is a big deal. That's a big deal. But use our link in the description, shop with Buff, and we thank Buff for being a proud partner of the podcast. Deej, we have our end of year awards winners in the NLL that got announced today as we record this. We did it, Joe. We did it. We willed him to victory. Months and months, years and years of willing this incredible individual to being named NLL MVP has finally happened. Everybody flap those wings. Rochester Nighthawks elite superstar Connor Fields has been named MVP of the 2024-2025 National Lacrosse League season. We did it, Joe. We did it.
I mean, I said some forever ago.
Forever.
I'm just glad that people listen, because I did not want to have to crash out because they decided to give it to somebody else who didn't necessarily deserve it. Let me throw that out there. There are some people who did not win this award that 1,000% deserved it, had very good seasons. But when you look at what Connor Fields did in multiple statistical categories, his actual play on the floor in terms of eye test, and then what he meant to the Rochester team, both on the floor, off the floor, in the locker room, etc., he is the definition of most valuable player. And I'm very happy to say that he got it, because there are very few players this year where you could have taken them off of their team, and they would have had the same drastic downfall that I think Rochester has without Connor Fields. Not that anybody on Rochester isn't good, not that they don't have a good team, not that they didn't make the playoffs this year. All of that is true. But a lot of that is because of Connor Fields and what he meant to this team. They have a totally different identity without Connor Fields. That is what MVP is about. That is why he deserved this award. That is why I'm happy to say I called it forever and a day ago, and I'm happy to be celebrating it now.
We willed it to victory. That's our guy. We love Fieldsy, friend of the program. And I mean, we said it for the longest time when we picked up on it, maybe a third of the way through the season, when we recognized Fieldsy was like going ham on loose balls as a forward. We were like, that's kind of rare in the National Lacrosse League. Forwards are normally the guys that are getting the ball chucked to them, not the ones doing the dirty work and picking loose balls up all the time. And the fact that Connor Fields finished top 10, top 9, if you want to be really specific, in loose balls this season, along with guys like Jake Withers, Mitch DeSnoo, Zach Courier, Jake Boudreau, Justin Inacio, Robert Hope, Joe Nardella, Graham Hosick, and then Connor Fields. Minus Mitch DeSnoo, all the other guys I listed, and Graham Hosick, all the other guys there are primarily taking faceoffs. So it makes sense that they're leading the league in loose balls and are up in the top 10 in loose balls. Connor Fields being a forward and getting 148 loose balls and finishing ahead of guys like Ryan Terefenko, Mike Messenger, Nick Weiss, Stathakis, Connor Farrell, like Connor Kirst, who was taking faceoffs primarily for Vegas for a bunch of the season. Like, he finished ahead of traditional transition and faceoff guys who you should expect to be getting loose balls as a forward. That, to me, is increasing the definition on valuable player for a guy like Connor Fields. Plus, you look at what he did, this season, points-wise. He finished top 3. Only guys ahead of him were Josh Byrne and Dane Smith, and he finished tied for third with Joe Resiteritz. Assists-wise, he finished with 76. He had 46 goals this year. Like, the dude was just nuclear, and finished with only 57 turnovers in the process. He caused 7 turnovers, had 1 block, 252 shots on goal. I mean, he was an animal. And you want to talk about Rochester wouldn't be Rochester without Connor Fields. Rochester does not rise from the ashes and become the Rochester Phoenix without Connor Fields. Like, that team is not making the playoffs if that dude is not on the floor for them. He played in all 18 games this year and was just an absolute force to be reckoned with. I couldn't be happier for him. He's not only deserves this, but he earned it in every sense of the word, valuable in MVP. And it couldn't have happened to just an more incredible human than Connor Fields. I'm so happy for him. Just absolutely incredible. And he just continues to showcase like how elite of a player he is. Like, we talk about the Joshes and Danes and, Joe Resiteritz in the NLL, but like Connor Fields, I feel like doesn't get the proper amount of praise for how elite level he is. People talk about he's a good player. He does a lot of things. Connor Fields is elite. If you're starting a team, tomorrow, Connor Fields is one of the handful of players I'm saying, yeah, I'm building my team around him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he has everything you need. He has the fire. He's not afraid to get dirty. He's ready to go in and do whatever is needed for the team. But he's also an exciting player. He has the flair. He has the swag, and he's skilled. He can make everybody around him better. And all he wants to do is win. He wants to go out and win, whatever that means. If it means he's getting 1 point today and 10 more next week, it does not matter. He's here to help the team win, here to make sure everybody has a good time, here to make the people around him better, and wants to continue being great. I love that. And that's what you want around your superstar player. That's who you want to build around. And that's how you want your team to be run, is for guys to look up to their captain or, the best player on a team like that and try and emulate that and match his energy. He brings awesome energy to any team he's on.
Yeah, couldn't be happier for Fieldsy. And that's not to discredit, like you said, the other guys that were nominated. Like Westberg was nominated, Dane Smith was nominated. Like, those dudes were unbelievable this year. But in terms of the sense of valuable, you remove Connor Fields from the Nighthawks, they're probably one of the 3 worst teams in the league because he is the focal point of that offense that makes the Ryan Smiths and the McConveys and the Lanchberries that much better and dominant of players because they have Connor Fields around them. We have the Executive of the Year winner is Jason Thorne from the Vancouver Warriors. I see no issue there. What the Warriors did this year to build that team and then to execute the trade to bring in Del Bianco, what more could you ask for? And Vancouver makes the playoffs for the first time in this show's history. So I think there's nobody more deserving there. I think he had a phenomenal season as the Executive of the Year. The Tom Borelli Media Person of the Year award goes to John Gertler, the longtime play-by-play voice of the Buffalo Bandits. Long time coming. It's surprising he hasn't won this award before, but he is truly an elite level member of the media, and like to get that award, I think, has been a long time coming and just makes his Hall of Fame resume that much more clear because he is truly one of the best of the best. On top of that, Teammate of the Year award winner goes to Keegan Bell from the Saskatchewan Rush. I mean, the dude dressed and suited up as an emergency goalie this season. He was an e-bug at one point. So, I mean, you want to talk about ultimate teammate. That award is given out by the NLL Players Association. So congrats to Keegan Bell. The Sportsmanship Award goes to Kyle Buchanan. Again, one of the best sportsmen in the game. Makes a ton of sense that he earned those honors. Jimmy Quinlan earns Coach of the Year for the Saskatchewan Rush. I mean, no gripes from me there, Deej. I think that makes more than enough sense that you see Saskatchewan rise from the ashes after a couple of down seasons, led by Jimmy Quinlan and the GM of the year, Derek Keenan of the Saskatchewan Rush, bringing a team from the ashes all the way back up to the NLL Finals. So that makes a ton of sense there. And then we have our Offensive Player of the Year. It goes to Dane Smith. I mean, the dude had over 100 assists, broke his own assist record, and finished the year tied for the league lead in points. Makes the utmost sense to me, and we talked about this last year too, where like the Offensive Player of the Year doesn't necessarily have to be the MVP. And I'm glad that they differentiated this year, where Dane gets Offensive Player of the Year and Connor Fields wound up with MVP, because I think it's two totally different categories, and both of these guys deserved it for what they did respectively in those award categories.
Absolutely. I think this was done pretty well. I think an offensive MVP, offensive player of the year, should be very different than the MVP. I think defensive player of the year should be different than MVP, but I think both positions should be accurately represented when looking at MVP. Also goes for goalie, hence having a goaltender of the year and then still having MVP. Being able to, one, either give somebody who has a totally dominant season all of the awards they should have and have earned, or B, being able to acknowledge multiple seasons at the same position who are great equally or just as good as one another, but were maybe one guy was a step higher than the other. But it still kind of proves that point of, hey, we have a lot of talent here. Let's make sure that we are spreading around the love to those who have earned it. And everybody isn't going to get an award, even though many people have earned it, but it definitely looks better when you have multiple assets. It's like only having the MVP in the NFL, but not having an offensive player of the year, or having an offensive player of the year, and every time that conference's guy wins the MVP, he also wins that conference offensive player of the year or defensive player of the year, whoever it is. Like, that's like not cool. MVP is already the highest award you can get. Let's acknowledge someone else who has also done really well this year that didn't quite get the MVP award. The NLL has done very well with that over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I mean, Dane broke his own NLL single season assist record with 102. That's pretty damn good offensively, if I do say so myself. Defensive Player of the Year goes to Matt Hosick for the first time in his career. And Hosick finished the season tied for first in caused turnovers at 34, third in blocked shots with 26, and he collected a grand total of 129 loose balls. So congratulations to Matt Hosick. First time he's won the award. Your transition player of the year goes to Owen Grant. He delivered in his sophomore campaign, to say the least. 24 points, 15 goals, 9 assists, 103 loose ball recoveries, 28 caused turnovers, and 27 block shots. And then your goaltender of the year goes to Frank the Tank Siciliano. He posted a 9.40 goals against average, a 7.95 save percentage over 16 games, leading the Rush to a 13-5 record and anchoring their defense throughout the year. So the Tank gets the nod at goaltender of the year. And then, as we mentioned, Connor Fields gets the MVP. Rookie of the year goes to Dyson Williams. He led all rookies in goals and assists in his first NLL season. And your all rookie team, not many surprises here, but Brennan O'Neill, Mike Robinson from the Halifax Thunderbirds, Dyson Williams, Trent DeChico, Will Johansson, and Adam Patra named to the all-rookie team. Not surprised in the slightest of the 6 guys named there. They were far and above the best rookies, in my opinion, this year across the board. And then your all first and second teams in the NLL. Connor Fields, Dane Smith, Matt Hosick, Ryan Dilks, Owen Grant, and Frank Siciliano get named to the first team all NLL. And then your second team, Josh Byrne, Jeff Teat, Mitch DeSnew, Graham Hosick, Ryan Terafenko, and Matt Vince. I know we were talking pre-pod a little bit about, not overdoing it by giving the top teams so many guys. I do feel for Ian McKay, because he had arguably his best season in the National Lacrosse League as an overall player. He contributed so much. Not to say that snub, not saying like Ryan Terafenko or Owen Grant didn't deserve to be named to these teams, but I do feel for Ian. He is a homie, and I mean, kudos to Ian, like a phenomenal season. And the dude was playing insanely motivated this year. Obviously, a multitude of reasons behind that, losing his stepfather to cancer. You could tell Ian was playing with a purpose this year. And I just want to say, I think, we'll probably conjure up an all OTB team after the finals have concluded. I think it's going to be pretty difficult for us to leave Ian McKay off an all OTB team. Just the way he played was phenomenal, and it felt like every single game he either had a hat trick, a highlight reel type of moment, was pushing transition so well. And I just want to give Ian McKay his flowers. It may not reflect in the record books that he was named to a first or second team, but I think Ian had an all-world season this year, and I just want to say I think I speak for both of us. We're extremely proud of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this a little bit. I just think like you can't go too far into like how many teams you do, because then it like feels disingenuous to a point. Not that it would be disingenuous to have Ian on a team this year. Not that it would be disingenuous to put anybody that I believe we would put on a third team there, but you have to keep it competitive to some level. You have to keep it kind of being something that people are striving for, something that is literally only for the best of the best in the league. When you look at the 6 or the 12 guys that were chosen, there's very little argument that can be made, and most of the argument is made at transition. Everybody is pretty solid with the forwards, the D, and the goalies that were chosen. Transition is where the question comes in, where Ian comes in, all of that. But going to 3, people would be like, I think a lot more questions come in about who gets to be in that third and why they get to be there over the next handful of guys. But with that being said, like you said, Ian had an insanely good year this year. He was effective on both sides of the floor, really helped their transition game, but really was an offensive spark. When they needed a third guy, he was there. He was active, he was ready to go, and he provided that spark that was from what some would call it unlikely character. When you're looking at Buffalo, how they're constructed, Ian McKay is the last person you think is putting up 4 or 5 goals in a game on you.
Mm-hmm.
Not that he can't do it, but when they have
so many options,
Chase Frazier, Tehoka Nanticoke, Dane Smith, Josh Byrne, Kyle Buchanan, the list goes on. Why would you think it would be Ian McKay?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make sense.
And it's even carried over to the playoffs too. Not that these awards count towards the playoffs, because these awards are voted on before the playoffs begin. But like, Ian's got 12 points in the playoffs too. He's got 9 goals and 3 assists in 3 playoff games. Like, he's been on fire. And I mean, we haven't constructed the team yet. We will have it once the season comes to a close, but I find it hard to believe that you and I would leave Ian McKay off the all OTB team that we do each and every year, because he's just popped off the page. And you and I both being big eye test guys, Ian McKay checks every box of the eye test for this season.
Absolutely. And for all the people out there, we are not strictly eye test guys. Numbers do come into some account here. But eye test is a much bigger part of how we look at things than others, because at the end of the day, we've talked about this. Numbers, in fact, they don't lie, but they don't always tell the full truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's very similar to there's 3 sides to every story: your side, his side, and the truth. That's kind of what numbers are like. Numbers paint one story, some people run with it, and then if you really look at the eye test, there's the other side too, right? So it's like numbers create one side, eye test creates another, but the truth of that person, that player, is right in the middle. The truth of that team is right in the middle. All right, look at how their statisticals match up with their eye test, and that will tell you how they are as a player/team. That's what we do a really good job of. I think Ian passes both of those marks.
Can I laugh real quick? Because I didn't even realize he went this nuclear. Do you know how many goals Ian scored this year?
No.
Take a wild guess.
It's
kind of insane for a transition guy to be able to.
48.
Not too far. 37 goals, 17 assists. 9 of those goals were on the power play. 3 of those assists were on the power play. 54 points for Ian. 37 goals for a transition player is fucking wild.
Yeah, it's actually kind of insane.
That's wild. 94 loose balls. Took 100. This is even 37 goals when he took 131 shots on goal. And he also went 1 for 3 on the face-off. He's an absolute menace.
Swiss Army machete.
Big facts. That thing's getting a new model release after this year. It's going to have like a laser beam installed in it.
I need that.
Facts. Like a laser pointer. Mess with all the cats out there. Incredible season from Ian. An incredible season from everybody who got named to those all NLL teams, whether it be first, second, or the rookie team, all the award winners. Congratulations. Well earned, well deserved. Let's push to the NLL Finals mini preview here. It is brought to you by our awesome merch partners at PHI Apparel Company. Guys, if you want to stand out in the crowd, whether you're going to an NLL Finals game, go into a PLL weekend, headed up to Boston for the NCAA Tournament. You want to stand out in the crowd, rep your favorite lacrosse podcast. Get your official Outside the Box podcast merchandise, t-shirts, and hoodies available at PHI Apparel Company. Use the link in the description or go to phiapparel.co and use code underground at checkout to get a generous 10% off your next merch order. Again, that's phiapparel.co, code underground for 10% off your next merch order. Stand out in the crowd with the official merch partner of the Outside the Box podcast and Underground Sports Philadelphia. All right, Deej, it is the NLL Finals, and it is the Bandits, it is the Rush. First game, 7:30 Eastern on Friday night. Second game, Sunday, May 18th at 8 Eastern out in Saskatoon. And then game 3, if necessary, would be Saturday, May 24th at 4:30 Eastern, which should follow up the Final Four, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so with the semis.
Yeah, on Saturday. So
D1 semis.
So that would be kind of the full-fledged day of lacrosse, which if that happens, hachi machi, get your popcorn ready. But we'll start with, the matchup itself. I think this matchup is, like we said earlier, is going to be a shit ton of fun. These two teams finished with the same exact record. Goal differentials extremely similar. Saskatchewan had a plus 34. Buffalo had a plus 47. I mean, they almost even each other out, too. Goals per game, Saskatchewan scored 11. Buffalo scored 13. Goals against per game, Saskatchewan 9. Buffalo 10. They're very evenly matched. And I said, Buffalo's like the Avengers. Saskatchewan's like the Thunderbolts. If you've seen the Thunderbolts, you'll understand that reference. But I love this matchup. This is going to be so much goddamn fun. And I think the key points for me in this matchup are Jake Naso versus Connor Farrell, how that shakes itself out and how those two go to battle to kind of set the tone for the possession game for these two prolific offenses. And then you have Saskatchewan, who, while coaching-wise and everything, I think it's a huge benefit that coaching-wise, they've had guys in this situation before. You have a lot of young guys playing in an NLL final stage for the first time. Sure, you have Robert Church and Ryan Keenan and Mike Triolo and Shanksy, who are your veterans, but you have guys like Levi Anderson, Clark Walter, Zach Mans, who haven't been on this stage before. Defense-wise, your defense is very, very young across the board, relatively speaking. That, I think, comes into play a tad bit when you're playing against Buffalo, who now will have a half a decade experience as this roster is constructed, playing in the NLL Finals. But I am excited to see, because, and even though they are young, I don't think Saskatchewan's using that as an excuse for them to, be a shell of themselves. I think they're going to come out ready to rock and roll. They're accepting the moment. And I think it's all going to start at that face-off dot, getting possessions for your offense, and allowing the Zach Manns, the Clark Walters, Ryan Keenan, Robert Church, Triolo, Shanksy, Brock Haley, and Levi Anderson to do their thing that they've done all season long, and we've rarely seen them slip up in any of those games, really.
Yeah, my thing is, though, I'm on the exact opposite side of that mantra. I think in moments like this, I think the background guys get tuned out a lot. The way I like to look at it is kind of like a concert, right? When you go to a concert, you have the opening acts, you're kind of paying attention, you're not, you're taking in the ambiance around you, you're seeing who else they have on stage, listening to how the DJ's spinning tracks, like all of these things are there.
Listen to this track, bitch.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but you notice all of that, you see all of that, you see people walking in and out. The main act steps on stage, you're locked in, you're tuned in. The background dancers, you don't even notice them. You can barely hear the music. You're not paying attention to anyone around you. That's what the NLL Finals is like. That's what the NBA Finals is like. That's what the Super Bowl is like. Nobody's looking at them odd end guys. They're looking at the homies, the big dogs. Are the stars going to show up? We know Josh Byrne, Matt Vince, Dane Smith, they're going to show up.
Ian McKay.
Is Zach Manns going to show up? Is Robert Church going to show up? Is Shanks going to show up? That's been the question for Saskatchewan the last couple of years, is when they get into these games, their big names don't show up. If their big names show up, this is going to be a blockbuster series. But if they don't, Saskatchewan's going to get run out of the building. And in that same token, the two biggest names that we haven't said much, Matt Vince and Frank Skiggs, they're going to be huge in this game. Because if the stars step up, the big names on offense for both sides step up, somebody on the other side has got to step up and do something as well. And at the end of the day, defenses can play good defense and force bad shots, force turnovers and everything, but are the goalies going to keep enough balls out of the back of the net? Which goalie is going to play better in this series? I couldn't tell you. They both have played phenomenally well, not only through the playoffs, but up through the last third of the season. They were on all 10, doing absolutely amazing, and literally willing their teams to victories, in some cases, games that they shouldn't have won. So it's literally going to be a battle of stars, I think, this time around. I think you'll get some contribution from your bench guys and the guys you aren't really expecting to be there, but the star group that does better will be the group that wins this series.
Can I make a proposition to you here?
Of course.
Because you know how we're both big merch guys. I was just perusing Saskatchewan's website as I was looking through their roster. Shout out to Saskatchewan because they have a 47 brand hat available on their website with their logo. If Saskatchewan wins the NLL Finals, I will purchase this hat. Secondly, if Saskatchewan wins the NLL Finals, Deej, there's a wrench in my plan. It's sold out. I was going to say, on their website, you should purchase this because it's only $7. It's a Rush Bison cheer horn. It's like a vuvuzela in the shape of a bison horn.
Stop it.
But it's sold out. Anyone at Saskatchewan, if you can find one just laying around potentially for the lads and get that sent over to us,
get in touch with your boys.
We will sound the horn immediately. But shout out to Saskatchewan, rocking with primarily 47 brand hats on their website. We love to see that. We love to see that. I think the goalie battle too is going to be huge. And we've seen Frank Giuliano, obviously goaltender of the year, but we've also seen him have moments where it's like, holy shit, what the fuck happened to Frank? So he's definitely got to be locked in, not let the moment be too big for him. And come to play in game one. Like, game one's going to be a huge deciding factor in this game. And I know that sounds cliche, but if Saskatchewan, we talked about, if they go into Buffalo, they've got all the momentum coming back home on Sunday. They've got a raucous, Saskatchewan fan base ready to be behind them 110%. And if Buffalo win, they're no strangers to going on the road and winning a game and closing out a series. That's game one, I think, could and probably should determine who ends up winning this year's NLL Finals.
Which is now hard to say that it's going to go 3.
Right. But again, on top of that too, Saskatchewan starts on the road, they win. I also think if they would have, in some alternate reality, we see Saskatchewan lose to Halifax in game one, it wouldn't have shocked us if, 2 games straight at home, they pull it out, because that's just the type of energy and time they're on. And, playing in front of their home crowd is a huge boost. That wouldn't shock me at all either. I want to see this series go 3. I think it would be electric if it goes 3. Will it? That remains to be seen. Who is your pre-finals MVP for the series?
Damn, that kind of makes me have to pick a winner. Fuck.
Not exactly.
Okay. I will say Robert Church if it's Saskatchewan. Probably Dane Smith if it's Buffalo.
I'm going to say I'm going to go Mike Triolo if it's Saskatchewan. And I'm going to go Ian McKay if it is Buffalo.
Lots of Ian love this pod.
That's the boy, man. He needs to come back on the show too.
If I don't get a tweet, if we don't get a tweet from bro, I'm on that.
Hey. Oh, Deej, they also got the Rush, like those giant fan chain necklaces.
Can you imagine me walking around with one of those?
Oh my god. They call me Big Rush. Larry Hoover.
The people wouldn't know what to do if I walked around with one of those.
That's so funny. Oh, that's incredible. But yeah, it's going to be an electric NLL Finals. I'm excited for it. And, we are, whoa. I have breaking Philadelphia sports fandom news for the people out there. This has nothing to do with lacrosse, but this is kind of wild. My guy, Aaron Ola, is going on the injured list with an ankle sprain. Mick Abel will make his MLB debut on Sunday. I will be at that game. Let's fucking ride. Versus Paul Skeens. That's crazy. We love a little breaking news. But I think without any further ado, Deej, we will head on over to the pick pond, potentially for the final time this NLL season. Feed some ducks and dish out our NLL picks of the week for the NLL Finals, brought to you by our friends over at Kenwood Beer, the official beer partner of Underground Sports Philadelphia. It's a refreshing light beer, just 4.1% ABV, 120 calories, just 8 grams of carbs. You guys can go to kenwoodbeer.com and use the Kenny Finder to see who's got Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia, Maryland, New Jersey, Delaware, and Pittsburgh areas. You can also find Kenwood Beer at your local liquor stores in those markets. Again, that's kenwoodbeer.com. Must be 21 or older to do so. And of course, please drink responsibly. All right, Deej, it's the NLL Finals. As I scroll down at our picks, we both had Saskatchewan winning twice. So we both picked up a win since our last recording because they didn't have to play game 3. But The NLL Finals are here, and I will let you start with Game 1, Saskatchewan at Buffalo, as I conjure up our overall picks here to get our records straight for the people. How do you see Game 1 shaking out?
I'm going to play... I'll take the home team. I'll take Buffalo. And I really don't know where to pick any of these games.
He's like, what do I do with my hands?
Bro, yes, literally. I don't know what to do with any of this.
That's so funny. Game 1, I don't know. Something's like speaking to me about Saskatchewan in this series. And we've had teams speak to us in the past. You know, Buffalo last year really spoke to us. Colorado spoke to me a couple of years ago. Saskatchewan's really speaking to me. They have just felt like that team that, not that anyone's overlooked them, but they are a team that just like continues to just chug along, and no matter who is on their schedule, they find ways to win. And I think they're riding a good high after, you know, a 2-0 sweep of Halifax. I think they're feeling good about themselves, and I think they're ready for the challenge. And it would not shock me in the slightest if they go into Buffalo and win. So I'm going to take Saskatchewan in Game 1. We go to Game 2 on Sunday at Saskatchewan, 8 Eastern. Deej, is it the home team taking the dub for you, or is Buffalo closing this out in 2 and sweeping the Rush?
I'm going home team again. I think we're going to get 3. I think we get a 3-game series this year.
I'm gonna go opposite. I think it's a road dog series to start. I think Buffalo gets their shit together and figures it out in Game 2. And then we head back to Buffalo for Game 3, which Game 3 will happen, hypothetically, by the time we record again next week. So we won't give our Game 3 prediction just yet. But there it is. Deej is going Buffalo Game 1. I'm going Saskatchewan. Game 2, he's going Saskatchewan. Game 2, I'm going Buffalo. We're just flip-flopping all over the place. But those are our 2025 NLL Finals picks of the week, powered by Kenwood Beer. Road dogs, baby. Let's shift to a little PLL conversation. It's brought to you by our PLL App Code. Guys, the PLL app is back and ready to rock and roll. PLL Fantasy is live. You already know we're ready to rock and roll with PLL Fantasy. Plus, DJ, I was talking to BC at the PLL draft. There's going to be head-to-head matchups in fantasy this year. Nice little head-to-head matchups. You're going to be playing against somebody every single week in your group. It's going to be a lot of fun. The official OTB group will be activated ASAP. So definitely join that. We'll tweet it out and post about it once it's live. But come join the fun. It's always fun. But I'm excited about that new wrinkle to PLL Fantasy. Going up against somebody every single week in your group is going to be absolute banter era of PLL Fantasy. It's going to be so much fun. Plus, keep up to date.
I'm running you every week. You already know what's up. You already know what's up.
Keep up to date with all the news, notes, and information going on around the PLL with your favorite team, the league in general, the WLL, and a whole lot more. Download the PLL app and go to the redeem code section once you get it downloaded and type in OTBPOD. That's OTB Pod, and you'll get 500 XP on your account. Again, download the PLL app, go to the redeem code section, and use code OTB Pod for 500 XP on your account. Plus, I was talking to BC. There might be some cool stuff coming involving us in the app, which is pretty cool. I'm very excited about it. We're gonna have some fun stuff involving the PLL app this season, which is gonna be sick, and I'm super pumped about it. Can't wait to share it. But not necessarily draft recap, but just kind of a lot of rubble has settled since the draft. A lot of transactions have come across the board. I think we can kind of see the draft a lot clearer than we did a week ago and be a little less reactionary. But when we recorded last week, we had to kind of like piece together the episode a little Frankenstein style. But overall, Deej, from the PLL draft, and I know you hopped on Stick Talk. We had our live show as well on draft night, so we got a lot of takes out throughout, and a lot of mine was just reactionary to the picks happening. But overall, from the draft, what were your biggest takeaways? Players going to certain teams that you really like the fit, some kind of head scratcher moves if there were any to you. And now that we've seen some of the transactions come out, Dox Aiken is on the holdout list currently, which elevates Matt Trainor's playability that much more. We have the chaos draft kind of making a lot more sense with Will Bowen not playing this summer. But what are your overall takeaways? Some moves, fits that make a lot of sense that are still kind of head scratchers to you, or are kind of a wait and see once those guys get on the field?
Okay, so I'll go backwards. Picks 27 through 29, which was round 4. Picks 3, 4, and 5. All short stick D mids, all from the ACC, all very good D mids. I think there's a great time for all those teams to go get D mids, and I think that they all fit the identity of each of those teams to a T. I think they're going to come in and be guys that are going to be effective on both sides of the field for them. They're going to be able to push that transition piece that we've talked about a lot with the PLL and kind of continue to help make those teams faster and competitive from the short stick D mid position. And they didn't necessarily have to go out and get them early, kind of taking away from someone else that they may have wanted as well. Looking in round 3, picks 23, 22. Okay, yeah. Basically, every pick but the last in this round. So except round 3, pick 8 is the only one I won't look at. You got Scott Smith going to the Whips out of Johns Hopkins. Sam King going to the Archers out of Harvard. Pace Billings out of Michigan going to Outlaws. Emmett Carroll out of Penn going to Whip Snakes. Mitchell Dunham out of Richmond going to the Archers. Michael Grace out of Syracuse going to Atlas. And then Ben Wayer out of Virginia going to the Water Dogs. Water Dogs continued. Like, this draft was literally just a depth draft for them. And I think they did an amazing job of going and getting things that just added to their depth. They didn't really need to fix anything. They didn't have any holes really in their roster. I think they just have to change some philosophical things and strategy things. And they added to that in their draft and went and got guys that complement who they already have. Ben Wayer isn't like any other pole that they have on their team, and no other pole is like Ben Wayer. And you look at some of these other teams, Scott Smith. If you ask me, it's really just Matt Dunn's replacement. He's only going to be there so much longer. We know that he's getting on the older side. Scott Smith reminds me a lot of Matt Dunn, and I feel we'll just be able to replace him to some standard. I don't think he'll ever be Matt Dunn, but he's going to be about just as good as you can get to supplement that lost.
Not to cut you off, too, just because I'm a little less knowledgeable. Say, just on the flip side, say if Tim Muller were to retire before Matt Dunn, could Scott Smith be Tim Muller and play alongside Matt Dunn?
I think that it would be the other way around. I think they would just
move Matt.
I think they would push Matt to that off-ball position and then allow Scott to still be himself. I think Scott's he's what you call a on-ball defender. Like, just pure on-ball defender. He's one of the best shutdown guys you're going to get out of this draft. I think you leave him there and let him be himself. Don't try and change too much of his game. Matt Dunn can do anything on a lacrosse field when it comes to being a defensive player. So I would just move him. Not that Scott Smith couldn't do it. I just think it would be more effective if you moved Matt Dunn. Pace Billings, arguably the best middle of the field pole in this draft. I think Ben Wayer gives him somewhat of a run there, but when you look at Michigan and how they played and how Pace Billings ran the middle of the field from both a defensive ground ball and offensive kind of mindset, he's going to do amazing things at the PLL level because the field is smaller. He's going to have more chances there in the middle of the field. Mitchell Dunham once again, is another replacement for Graham Hossick, Matt McMahon, etc. When you look at their young core,
Matt McMahon's been replaced already. Warren Jeffrey.
Yes, Warren Jeffrey. But when you look, they kind of have already replaced their close D. Like, you got Mason Woodward, you have Brendan Lavelle, and now you also have Mitchell Dunham. There's your close D moving forward. Like,
for like the next decade.
Yeah, they went out and did a good job of replacing guys that are similar to what they have that will be able to learn from the guys in front of them. Same thing with Grace. Grace is going to be a great LSM / close D, whichever one they decide to run him at, whenever they get time to run him, because they have 1,000 polls over there. But he was a great depth piece.
Where were you when DJ saved Richmond season and got a Richmond Spider drafted to the PLL?
They not like a no.
Flip. Like, you are Spider-Man.
Dead ass.
Call you Deej Morales because you are Spider-Man.
Sam King will fit into that Archers offense well. He's a great inside guy, has some dodging, shooting. Prototypical offensive player. If you're a prototypical offensive player, you can play for the Archers.
We legit talked about like Trainer being the guy potentially at 8. Obviously, the trade happened, so that shifted things around. But like Sam King falling to round 3 into Chris Bates's lap,
crazy,
dastardly work. Like he's perfect to play with Grant, Matt Moore, Mac O'Keefe, Tom Schreiber, and the rest of those boys. Like that was like one of, if not the steal of the draft.
And looking at the first 16 picks, they're almost what we expected, right? I think Owen Hiltz fits in great with Chaos and what they're going to eventually have on that offense. They have a lot of speed dodgers, but a lot of power shooting guys, a lot of strong dodgers, a lot of good IQ and passing ability on that offense. Owen Hiltz slides right into that. I think that was an amazing pick. The only thing I don't like about the first 16 picks is that the Redwoods decided to lose the last game of the year and give the Water Dogs CJ Kirst. He should be a Redwood. But with what the Redwoods had in the first 12 picks, you basically replaced CJ Kirst. Like, you got Andrew McAdory, you got
your guy,
Sam English, and then we also went and got Chris Kavanaugh. Would have loved to have seen Sam King in there instead, but I'm not the one making decisions. I think this will work in some fashion. But I just really wish we had CJ Kirst instead. Sneaky good pick, Coulter Mackesy over to the Cannons. I think that's going to work out in unreal fashions.
That was like the worst kept secret of the draft.
He was
going there.
Yeah, it really was. And I thought he might have possibly should have been a Redwood based off what he has to offer.
I also laughed that Brian during the pre-draft press conference was like, yeah, our coaching staff is split down the middle on Sam English. I think it was Sam English and Coulter Mackesy, and he was the deciding factor. It's like, Brian, you damn well knew who you were taking. If Coulter Mackesy fell to 4, you knew you were damn well taking him.
You know how he is, though.
It was so funny. But like to bounce off of your red, like I was blown away because throughout the day at ESPN HQ, there was rumblings that pick 3 was going to be on the trade block if an offer came through. And there was rumblings that an offer did come through. And I give Joe Spallina credit for not pulling the trigger on it and getting 3 impact guys for this offense to add to Ryder Garnsey, Westberg, and now you have 3 young core pieces that are going to fit what this new coaching staff want to do offensively. And the fact that he didn't have to trade any of those picks and still got consensus board 3 round 1, like graded round 1 guys is a damn good job in a first draft in the PLL by Joe Spallina and company.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job of going and getting exactly what they need and then being able to supplement that behind it. And knowing that you're coming into a new situation, you kind of can't go wrong with any of the decisions you make. Maybe trading away some picks might have been a little weird, but really you couldn't go wrong drafting anyone because you're in a whole new scenario, creating basically a whole new team. Even though you already have people there, you
Mhm.
don't know what it's going to be like once everybody gets there.
Right.
And how things change, what the new coaching staff wants to do. So you couldn't really go wrong there. I was very impressed with their moves and how he handled things. But for the most part, the top 16 picks fit exactly where they went.
Yeah, and I mean, we got the news earlier this week that Ethan Walker is placed on the holdout list. It sounds like he's going up north to play MSL, and I found it interesting, and I kept it in the back of my head for a while because I didn't want to speculate. But anytime I talked to Coach Tierney, and anytime I heard him speak to anybody else, I found it interesting that Ethan Walker's name was not getting brought up when they were talking about the offense. And I've kind of felt like, okay, maybe the writing's on the wall, with everything. And I know Ethan is getting married this summer, if I'm not mistaken, too. So that could also be a factor, of him playing MSL, being able to stay in Canada, whatever it may be. But to me, this also, we talked about a little bit with Matt Trainer and Dox Aiken, going and playing summer football. Matt Trainer's role potentially being elevated that much more now as a rookie. I think you could probably say the same, and not that he wasn't going to get playing time because Coach Tierney said this player could score 15 goals on the man up alone. I think this only elevates the ability and the fun factor of this Water Dogs offense by putting Jake Taylor in a more complete role for the Water Dogs with pick number 9. Now that Ethan Walker is on the holdout list, you get Jake Taylor out on that offense with Sowers, Kirst, Kieran, midfield wise, Jack Hanna, and a loaded midfield with Connor Kelly and the rest of those boys. Like, I think Jake Taylor is going to be one of the sneaky, like, holy shit, I know it was pick 9, but how did this guy fall to pick 9? Type of players that we talk about as the season progresses, because I think he's going to have a super important role now on this offense for the Water Dogs, and he's going to be so much fun to watch. And I love the pick that much more now, knowing, Ethan Walker's probably not going to be available. We already know Zed Williams is probably going to be out for most of, if not the entire PLL season as well. But I love the Jake Taylor pick that much more now for the Water Dogs.
Yeah, I think it worked out very well for them. I still don't know if he's where he's going to land on the roster. If he lands on the roster every week, like that, it's still a stacked room over there. But to have him as an option is a great option to have,
especially with the passing ability of Kirst, Michael Sowers, and Kieran. Like, that dude's quick stick is one of the best. Couple guys I wanted to get your thoughts on from the second round, because the second round I think had a lot of guys that people are like, whoa, at this pick. From pick 12 to 16, really. I think, McNaney the writing was on the wall that he was going to go to Denver. Pseudo and company liked him a lot, and they only had one goalie on the roster. So to go get him made a lot of sense. I'll start with pick 12 with the Cannons. What did you make of Mick Kelly going at pick 12? I think that was like the first like eyebrow raise pick where a lot of people not necessarily said that's a reach, but didn't expect Mick Kelly to go top 12. What did you make of that, and how do you think he fits in that Cannons midfield?
I think it's one of those decisions where coach knows something we don't. Like the thing is, we all look at things differently. We all evaluate players differently. There's something that he saw in Kelly that maybe the rest of us didn't, or there's something that he saw in Kelly that he knows will fit in well with who he already has on his roster. There's so many things that factor into someone being drafted, and I think that he could have let him slide? Yeah. Do I think he may have possibly even been somebody who he could have just signed and not wasted a draft pick on? Yeah. But also, we don't know the other rumblings that were being had amongst other coaches about this player. We don't know if other coaches saw what Holman saw in him. I think he, me and Hoots talked about it a little bit with Neil on the stream. He reminds me a lot of Ewok.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at how Ethan Walker played his last few years of college, how he started in the PLL, that kind of player fits almost seamlessly into what the Cannons do. The Cannons are a prototypical old school MLL team.
Mm-hmm.
Dodge, shot is there, they'll take it. If not, they're gonna move it, redodge. Move it, shot. Like they're a dodge, move it, do something kind of team. Shit. You get the right dodger, move it, and he's stepping down. Kelly's banging the back of the net over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you're sending him down a speed dodge. Or maybe he's quickly catching, pushing one side. Oh, I have two options here. Someone's going to be open. But like he just fits into their style of play, basically based off of what Denver does with their offense. Very much a dodge, pass, do something kind of offense.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting training camp with their midfield because their midfield, it is so unique player to player. Like right now, their midfield is Matt Campbell, Donville's back, Ryan Drenner, Mick Kelly, Connor Kirst, Vardaro. I'm going to be very excited to see the training camp battles in that midfield for sure. I don't think you and I have talked about the Chaos second round. Obviously, the pick swap happened, which is, I believe, is the first pick swap in PLL history. What did you make of Levi Verge, Jack McDonald going to Carolina? And I don't know if I told you too, I got to talk to Roy Colsey after the draft, and he said, you go into a draft with a plan A, plan B, plan C. Well, today was our plan D because they didn't expect Levi Verge to be on the board at 13. So that threw a wrench in their overall approach because Levi Verge was a guy that they liked a lot. Colsey said he reminds him a lot of a younger Jared Newman. So to get a younger version of a guy that's already on your roster and get to learn from him makes a ton of sense. But they didn't expect Levi to be on the board there. So they took Levi, obviously, as a best player and kind of a fit. And obviously now we know Will Bowen is not playing. So now you have a guy who, if it makes sense, can start day one on your defense next to Jack and Jared. But then they go Jack McDonald, and that was like the head scratcher for a lot of people. From people I talked to, Jack McDonald was their initial like hashtag guy. Like they wanted him in this draft. And I get a lot of Chaos fans and a lot of PLL fans are like scratching their head, like, you need offense. Why are you not, going and getting offensive players and everything? I get that argument for sure. But I also think when you're in a situation, you made that trade early on, you get Owen Hiltz, who was clearly their guy. You're going to add him to Jules Henningberg, which I think now more than ever, I think you might agree with me on this. We're going to see Jules in a very 2019 Redwoods situation, more so than we've seen him over the past couple of years, where he's going to be that guy at X for them. And then, they've brought in other pieces. I don't think I would say I hated the Chaos draft. I still think there's a lot of work to be done with their roster, but they're very dominant at a specific portion of the field, and that's obviously defense. And then you also brought in a lot of guys using your draft picks, whether it's, Josh Sawada, you brought in Garrett Degnan via trade, Chris Aslanian. You still have Shane Knobloch, Eric Dobson from last year's draft. Perk is back, who had kind of a resurgent season last year with the Chaos. You brought in JJ Silstrop. Ross Scott is still on the roster. Braden Maia is on this roster still. So it's not like they don't have guys. I think it's more so they have a lot of unproven guys on their roster. It's going to be interesting to see how they all kind of mesh and blend. And I think of all the teams, Carolina has the most important training camp upcoming out of the 8 PLL teams.
I didn't have any real opinions on their draft because we know basically nothing. So I just was like, yeah, they're drafting. Like to me, they're just gonna draft basically the best available player because why not? And to me, it seems like that's what they did. Like I don't think they had a real direction because, granted, it didn't matter what direction they took. They weren't really going in the wrong direction.
Mhm.
I think the only thing they didn't need to draft was a goalie, and they didn't. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so
Yeah, I didn't
it
hate
was
their draft.
no, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I didn't have an opinion on it at all because I just didn't. I have opinions on drafts because I'm thinking about them prior going in. Like,
Mhm.
okay, this team has this. This is how they performed recently. This is probably what they should be looking for. With Chaos, we don't really know what they have. We know what they lost, but we don't know what they have, and then we can't really use how they played in the last few seasons because that basically doesn't mean anything now that they don't have most of that. So basically it was just a fresh slate. So I'm like, whatever happens, happens because that's exactly what it is. We don't know anything else about this team.
I also stupidly forgot to mention via trade as well, Carter Parlett, because they clearly got that from our podcast episode.
They did.
Which, I mean, on top of that too, it's almost a draft strategy in and of itself. Like, Spencer Ford went out and traded for Degnan, Aslanian, Parlett, and Zawada, and used draft picks to acquire those guys that are still very young for the most part. I know Zawada's 26 and played an extra year in college, but he's still in his prime and is now going to have an opportunity to get more playing time than he would have with the Denver Outlaws just based on their roster construction. Those moves, like, I didn't hate any of those trades either. Like, the fact that they got Aslanian, I think, is a huge boost in that midfield that is so young. And I mean, we're going to be able to see more playing time, like I said, from Zawada, from Garrett Degnan, who only played, 4 games last year at most, if I'm not mistaken. Carter Parlett's never played in a regular season PLL game, so we're going to be able to see him with that short stick D midi group. We're going to see more of Jack Posey this year because Will Bowen is out. We're going to see Levi Virch potentially get more playing time as a rookie. Jack McDonald alongside Troy Ray. I'm not at, like, do I think the Chaos are going to be world beaters this year and go undefeated? No. But I think I'm a little more intrigued and just like open-minded about what their season's going to look like post-draft than a lot of people online are. Because at the end of the day, too, like you said, they didn't need to draft a goalie because they got the best goddamn goalie on the planet, and they have one of the best defensive units in the PLL. That's pretty damn important if you want to win games. Stopping your opponent from scoring, that makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. I'm optimistic about the Chaos. I think they're going to be one of those teams that, like, I'm going to sit back when I'm not at a PLL weekend and just watch what they do and just learn what Roy Colsey and his coaching staff want this team to look like. And that, to me, is very like 2019 PLL. We get to see what these, new players and new coaching staff want a team to look like for the first time in this franchise's history since 2019.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any opinions. I just hope the boys have fun.
D said, "Cause fuck them."
Not even, bro. I just
if you know that reference, drop it in the YouTube comment section.
But yeah, I don't want to give them expectations because I feel like they would be harsh.
Mm-hmm.
Or they would be too lax. So I don't want to put myself in any weird position. Not with anybody out there, because I don't really care how y'all feel about my takes. My takes are my takes. I care about how I feel about my takes. And I would feel weird about putting a take on their team going into the season. But I do think it will turn out much differently than many people are perceiving it to.
Yeah, I think people are way too negative end of the spectrum. You need to come a little bit closer to like the middle ground and just be cautiously optimistic is how I'll phrase it. We kind of talked about Dylan Hess off pod together. We like that pick. We think Dylan Hess is very fun. I think he's a perfect addition to that short stick D midi group for the Water Dogs and does a lot of things differently than the rest of the short sticks on that roster are able to do. And not that they're not capable. It's just he's a different look at short stick D midi, and that's very exciting. Last one in round 2, though, that I think was the biggest head scratcher for a lot of people is Max Krebsky going to the Atlas. What were your thoughts on that? Because I think he was the guy more so than Mick Kelly for me that I was like, did the Atlas have to draft him? Was that kind of a stretch pick in round 2? And I know Pressler talked about how they were not interested in trading this draft. They had their guys, so this was clearly one of their guys. And if their guys got taken, they would pivot. Don't know if any other guys were taken prior to Krevsky going, but this was like one of the bigger question mark picks that I saw consensusly, both online, talking to people, around the draft and everything. A lot of people were kind of shocked by this pick.
Maybe Jack McDonald.
That's what I was thinking. Well, Jack went after.
That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe they could have chose him instead. But, like, at the end of the day, when you look at what we now know now, they needed another midfielder.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, they have Jake Stevens. So, like, they have guys there, but you want to replace if you lose one. Doc Aiken walking out the door. What are you going to do? So they replaced. And, like, it's not like they needed anything else. If we think about it, they went and got an attackman in round 1. They got a midi in round 2, an LSM in round 3, and another midi in round 4. What else do you want them to do? They went and got everything. I think the only thing they maybe could have done was drafted another goalie, possibly, but you're better off signing one. You still have Timmy T there. Either re-sign him or sign someone from
they didn't sign Timmy T, but we're back up because Drake Porter got invited to training camp with the New York Atlas yesterday. We back up.
You know what I'm saying though? It's like
because they brought in Will Mark in free agency.
That's what I'm saying. You don't need to bring in a goalie from the draft if you have a handful that you're looking at already. So they went and drafted based off of filling the back end of their team because they didn't need anybody on the front end. What else did you want them to get in the second round? What else did you want them to take in the second round? Seriously. I'm looking at the third round. A D, an attackman, a goalie, a D, an LSM, a short stick D mid. They didn't need any of that.
Knowing what they did in the draft, and I'm looking at their roster right now, would you prefer to play Michael Grace at defense? Since the only listed defensemen on their roster are Adler, Makar, and Rexroad?
I mean, personally, I think he's a better D mid. But he has the size, athleticism, skill, IQ to be LSM. I think he's a floater. I think
he's so big.
I think you do what teams have done with Chris Sabia, Will Bowen, like that kind of thing. Run him where you need him.
Owen Grant.
If you have 3 really good close D, play him at pole. You have good poles, play him at close D. You have good of both, let him sit and learn, and then put him in where you need him later.
Yeah, because LSM, they have Kobe Smith, obviously Tyler Carpenter coming off LSM of the Year award winner, and then they signed CJ Costabile, who Pressler was very high on in the pre-draft press conference.
Well, I'm pretty sure Pressler was coaching him at Duke.
He was coaching him, and then they're both Connecticut guys.
So, yeah, if he does play, it'll be down low.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that he plays more than a couple games this year because of that. And if he does, he's making it as the 4th pole to be back up just in case. Like, it's going to be tough for him, but it was a nice depth pickup.
6'5" is gigantic. Also,
I mean, we've seen him in person. Like, he's a large human being.
He's large. Before the Wings got the number 1 overall pick, I was like, yeah, I want that guy on the Wings. Also, Deej. I got a text message from somebody. Do I read it on pod?
As long as you're not going to get in trouble for it.
So I had texted somebody earlier to congratulate them on winning a certain award. And they responded saying that they really appreciate it and can't thank us enough for all you do for me personally and for the sport. Hope to see you this summer. Signed,
Guilty.
Connor Fields.
Yay, gang, gang. Already knew.
The
Already
boy.
knew. The homie. And if y'all didn't know, we're your favorite lacrosse player's favorite lacrosse podcast.
That's big facts. Big facts.
And if you didn't know, now you know. I ain't gonna say the other word.
And if you didn't know, now you know.
I ain't gonna say the other word. We gonna leave this as a kid friendly podcast this week.
Okay, Pat Bev. Anything else stand out to you from any of the picks? Obviously, you and I are big fourth round guys. We always love looking back like a couple years down the line at the fourth round. I know Griffin Schutz is he's going abroad, so pick kind of strange in hindsight. I will say I like Bryce Ford going to the Archers. That's a very fun pick, as kind of the quote unquote Mr. Irrelevant pick in that midfield. But I do agree with what you said earlier. The run on short sticks there, Jack Gray, Ben Ramsey, Carter Rice, they all fit those teams perfectly. And I think that was like great value, especially for the Cannons, to have Ben Ramsey fall in their lap, who was a big board top 12 player available, fall to them at pick 28. I like where each of those guys ended up. I think that's going to be a spot in this draft that we look back on in, say, 2 years and be like, how are those guys performing? Where are they at? And I think you and I might both be stunned if they're not, still on those rosters. I think the only one that's a little questionable, but not even that much, is just Jack Gray and how he's going to break through in that outlaw short stick D midi room that is so loaded. But he gets to learn from some of the best in the game going right now, which I think is huge. But I do like that run and where each of those guys ended up falling.
Yeah, I brought that up at the beginning, but I think all three of those teams took a great advantage of having guys fall and finding the guys that fit their teams. But all of them outside of Carter Rice are going to have a tough time cracking their respective lineups.
Yeah. So let us know. Leave us a voicemail. The How We Live in hotline, speakpipe.com/OTBLaxPod. Let us know how you're feeling about your team post-draft with some of the moves that have been made, holdout list, entries, all that kind of good stuff. Let us know. Speakpipe.com/OTBLaxPod. And leave us a voicemail. You know how to start it. It's How We Live in. Deej, let's move to the college weekend once again. It is brought to you by our friends at 47 brand. Guys, we love 47 brand. I'm rocking my Super Bowl 52 champions hat right now. 47 brand is the place to do it, to rep your favorite sports teams, whether it's college, NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, minor league baseball, NASCAR, soccer. Hopefully one day we get 47 brand PLL hats. That would be gas. 47 brand, they're truly the best. We've been rocking with them for years, even before they came on board as a partner on the pod. They are my go-to hat of choice. So check out everything 47 brand has to offer. Use our link in the description. And when you go to check out, join the 47 family, and you'll get free shipping on all orders from our friends at 47. Free shipping. If it's free, it's for me. And I know Deej feels the same way. So get free shipping on all orders when you use our link in the description and join the 47 family today. And we thank 47 for being a proud partner of the podcast. Deej, break it down. How we live in when it comes to the NCAA side of things in the lacrosse world.
Well, let's start with last week, the most exciting news of the week. I did very well in my picks. There were only 2 games I got wrong. And if you know, it was the Duke game and the Ohio State game. I picked both Duke and Ohio State to win those games, and they did not. So I was 6-8 in the first round. I did a phenomenal job of putting together the teams I believed would win. When we look back at those scores, though, things got spicy real fast. After starting down 3-0 in the first quarter, Richmond would draw their way back into the game, and they would end up winning 13-10 after scoring 7 goals in the third quarter and winning the fourth quarter 4-1 and taking down North Carolina. Princeton puts up a 22 spot on Townsend, beats them by 10. Penn State squeezes out a tough victory over Colgate, who many thought had a chance, especially when it was 2-0 after the first and then all knotted at 5 in the second quarter. It was the third quarter where Penn State won 5-3 that gave them the 2-goal lead, where they tied 3-3 in the fourth quarter. Georgetown taking down Duke 16-12, in which they only lost one quarter. That was the second quarter. They lost 6-4. Duke was able to tie that game up at 7 at the buzzer going into half, and then Georgetown continued to come out and take advantage. Getting us over into Sunday, Notre Dame absolutely smacked Ohio State around, had complete control of that game the entire time. It was 2-1 Ohio State at the end of the first quarter, but quickly it was 7-4 at halftime, and then Notre Dame closed things out with 2 back-to-back 4-1 quarters to give themselves a 15-6 victory. Syracuse squeezes out a victory over Harvard in overtime in what ended up being one of the most exciting games of the weekend. Harvard giving it a push, but Syracuse kind of just too much too late with all of the talent that they have over there. Maryland easily handled Air Force 13-5. Same thing for Cornell over UAlbany 15-6 to close things out for the opening round. In the quarterfinals this week on Saturday, we got Cornell and Richmond. Want my Richmond Spiders to pull it out. It's going to be a tough game for them as they take on CJ Hurst and Cornell. Syracuse and Princeton taking battle. The noon game, I believe, is going to be on one of the ESPN networks. It's not labeled as such, but the 2:30 p.m. game on Saturday will be on both ESPNU and ESPN Plus.
Which one is the noon game? I'll pull up the
Richmond and Cornell. And then Sunday, the noon game, Notre Dame, Penn State. This one's going to go down at noon on Sunday. Penn State going to look to get back to championship weekend after they haven't done so in a couple of years. We know the last time they went, last year. Last time they went, the unfortunate, no, that was a couple years ago, 2 years ago. Sorry, 2 years ago when they went, Penn State had the unfortunate of Garrett Lemon stepping on the crease and not getting that call. So they're looking to avenge that loss. Maryland going to look to go to what feels like their bajillionth in a row championship weekend as they look to take down Georgetown 2:30 p.m. on Sunday. Both of those games not listed for ESPN either, but once again, I assume so unless we're told something different.
Richmond and Cornell is noon Eastern on ESPNU.
So the others are probably on ESPNU as well. And now that we think about it, we didn't even touch on the other ESPN thing before getting to college.
Yeah, which I'm going to bring up now. Can I interest anybody in a little SNL Saturday Night Lacrosse on ESPN? How we doing? Keep it moving. I am so pumped about this, Deej. I know the NLL had Friday Night Lacrosse on TSN, but Saturday Night Lacrosse, sign me up. This is the coolest shit ever. And I love Mike Rabel's tweet about it. He said, Saturday Night Lacrosse all summer. From the beginning, we believed this sport belonged in prime time. ESPN believed it too. And now we're doing something new together. If you want warm nights, packed crowds, and the best lacrosse on the planet, this is it. Every Saturday at 7 p.m., all summer on ESPN. Whether you're watching from home or in the stands at one of our 14 tour stops, let's make Saturday nights count. Appreciate the ESPN crew for backing the vision. See you under the lights. And now the schedule makes so much more sense with all of the night games. Because when the initial schedule came out for each team and we saw so many night games, we're like, this is pretty cool. What could this be about? Saturday Night Lacrosse, ESPN. This is the coolest thing ever. Under the lights, night lacrosse. I know the college community has begged for night lacrosse games a ton. And now we're getting it outdoors in the PLL all summer long. It starts May 31st in Albany. And most of these games have a rivalry aspect to them as well, whether it's interconference or these two teams match up all the time. May 31st, it's Cannons, Atlas. June 7th down in Charlotte, it's Redwoods, Chaos. June 14th at 7 Eastern, it's Outlaws and Water Dogs. June 21st, it's Cannons, Whipsnakes. June 28th, it's Water Dogs, Redwoods. July 12th, Chaos, Redwoods again. July 19th, Whipsnakes, Water Dogs in Fairfield. July 26th, Water Dogs, Chaos. August 2nd, Atlas, Outlaws. And then August 9th, Whipsnakes, Cannons. I love the Saturday Night Lacrosse branding. I love this concept so much. Obviously, it's not, and Diggs tweeted this in response. Said it's no hashtag PLL After Dark, but I'll take it. It's as close to PLL After Dark as we can get, and this is like the buttoned up corporate version of PLL After Dark. And I love this concept so much. This elevates your sport to have a primetime television slot for your sport on a given day. We see it all the time in football. We see it in baseball. We see it in hockey in the NBA. This is what separates you from the upstart. Obviously the PLL is still very much in its infancy, but this elevates you that much more to know, hey, every Saturday night, 7 Eastern, all summer long, PLL's on ESPN.
I'm pissed. The Water Dogs on here 4 times. You know why?
We're box office, baby.
Nah, because y'all had the first overall pick. If that was the Redwoods, we would be in all y'all spots. But hey, the Redwoods on here 3 times, so I'm cool with that. Everybody's on here 3 times except for the Whipsnake or the Water Dogs, who are on here 4 times. Oh no, scratch that. Only Atlas and Outlaws are only on here twice. Everyone else is 3 times. I like it though. Makes things easy. Makes things nice. Maybe y'all might catch me on that Chicago late night, depending on where I'm at in the stadium, because I will be there. But
and that's
we'll see.
Indigenous Heritage Weekend, or is that Throwback Weekend?
Throwback Weekend.
So
Throwback Weekend.
Throwback Weekend, 7 Eastern out there in Chi-Town.
And it's Chaos Woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We return to the scene of the crime of Blaze Reardon versus you know who.
Yeah. I hope he's not there. But
yeah, we already know how that goes. But some great matchups. I mean, Philly weekend, Outlaws, Water Dogs. You get CJ Curse and Brennan O'Neill on the big stage against each other. That's going to be a lot of fun. You look at the matchups, and there are just storyline in August 2nd in Denver. Brennan, Jeff Teat. Cannons Whipsnakes is always a doozy of a matchup, and that being in Baltimore is going to be awesome. Obviously, Marcus Holman with his Maryland ties. I love the schedule, and you look at all the games across the board, like the time slots on ABC, the time slots on ESPN, ESPN2. There's a lot of traditional television time slots for a lot of these games this year, and that's super exciting. 17 games on ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, all games on ESPN Plus. This is also pretty cool. You ready for this, Deej? I don't know if you saw the ESPN PR tweet. May 30th, the season openers are streaming on Disney Plus.
Okay, I did not see that.
And then May 31st, championship rematch on ABC, Whipsnakes Archers. Gonna be so sick. These are the primetime games on ESPN, ABC, and ESPN2, though. Whipsnakes Archers on ABC. Archers Cannons on June 7th is on ABC. Atlas Whipsnakes is on June 14th on ABC. We have we have 8 games on ABC alone. That's huge. ESPN, 3 games on ESPN, and then 7 games on ESPN2, including the semifinal in Philadelphia. And obviously that championship is one of the games on ABC as well. That's massive. Like, to have 8 games on ABC, 6 games on ESPN2, 3 games on ESPN, that's big time. Like, that just continues to elevate things, and I'm super pumped about the just the scheduling and everything. I think it's big time. It makes the product feel that much bigger for the casual fan, and now all summer long you're gonna be able to turn on regular traditional TV, and you're gonna have the PLL in your face every fucking Saturday, and I'm super stoked about that.
Yeah, it's just more linear television is important. We need more people being able to accidentally stumble across it. The more places it is, the better. And it's also just going to make watching easy when I'm able to flip to ESPN and not have to go through and find it on ESPN Plus or go to the Lacrosse tab to find the game. It's going to be right there in front of us. I think as long as those games are as good as they should be on paper, more and more and more people will be engaged with lacrosse moving forward.
100%. And one other tidbit, I know there's been a bunch of, post-draft signings, supplemental draft has happened as well, but the Atlas did announce their new assistant coach, Joe Sinoski, is taking over for Kevin Unterstein, who stepped down. We learned that news at the PLL draft. I like the hire. I think that's, just big time. Obviously, we're going to have the Pressler train continue pushing on, and you add somebody to his coaching tree now with Sinoski coming in. I think that's a big time hire and a sneaky, like, under the radar hire for the Atlas.
Yeah, I'm interested. I don't know a ton about him, but I know
Played for the Hounds.
Yeah, he played some D for the Hounds, and it was a great pull, and seems to have a great lacrosse IQ mind. So, really interested to see what he brings to what is already a really good defense with a great goalie behind him.
Mm-hmm. Former MCLA head coach too. So that's big time. And obviously Brooksy is still on the coaching staff, so that obviously is a boost for any organization. Any final thoughts before we get on up out of here, Deej?
Go Richmond. I won a 3-game NLL Finals, and Coach Deej is on hiatus for 2 weeks.
Living it up, living it up, living it up. Make sure you guys are following us on the socials at OTB LaxPod across the board. Follow Deej at SCS_next great. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Follow Hoots at Hoot Sports Media. Subscribe to the pod, subscribe to the pod, subscribe to the pod, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts in audio form. Leave a 5-star review. It goes a long way for helping this show continue to grow. Helps every single show on our network continue to grow. And check out, if you're on Apple Podcasts, the Underground Sports Philadelphia podcast channel, so you can tap into all of our shows. And subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. That is where you get full video episodes of this show every single week, full video episodes of every show on our network, clips, shorts, live streams, original video content. It's all on our YouTube channel. Get us to 1,100 subscribers. And of course, guys, check out Shootout For Soldiers website, shootoutforsoldiers.com/events, as their 2025 season gets underway this weekend in Annapolis, Maryland, and Atlanta, Georgia. Find out how to get involved, register for an event, volunteer, donate, and so much more. Shootoutforsoldiers.com/event. It's linked in the description. And we thank Shootout For Soldiers for being a proud presenting partner of the podcast. And this has been episode number 375 of the award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA, number 11 Philadelphia ranked, and of course, viewable on YouTube, Outside the Box Podcast, the official lacrosse pod on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. For Deej, I'm KB. Enjoy the NLL Finals. Enjoy the weekend of college lacrosse. Get excited for the PLL. Leave us a voicemail with your thoughts, takes, predictions, all that good stuff. We'll be back next week, hopefully talking about Game 3 in the NLL Finals, more college, and gearing up for another PLL season. But until then, we're getting the heck up out of here. We are signing off. Peace.
Peace.